Welcome to the Killing Podcast, Season 4, Episode 6, the finale.
This is it. The series finale, according to what Netflix is advertising.
The whole series.
Yes.
And this episode's called Eden.
Yes. Because they're eating some food in this?
Not eating.
Oh, not eating.
Eden.
Eden, yes.
I'm your host.
Already with the bad jokes.
I'm your host, Martha Southgate, and with me is my co-host,
Rob Southgate.
Okay.
Wow, let's
Can I just say,
do this one.
Before we fully jump into the play-by-play, this was such huge payoff for me. I loved this season. Yes. I loved 3. I mean, really, I thought 3 was some of the best TV
I did too.
I've ever seen.
I loved 3.
And I keep telling people that have quit to go back and watch 3.
Well, that's funny. This weekend, I've talked to people that quit after 1. They didn't even make it through the first season because they heard that the case isn't resolved, and it frustrated them so much they never watched again. We were right. That was a big mistake. Mm-hmm. I've been telling people also, finish out the first 2 seasons, get to that third.
I wouldn't.
I would. Because if you wanted to know what happened with that, I would have been going crazy in the end.
Yeah, I just could.
It had great resolution.
If you want to walk away from it, watch 3.
You know what?
But don't give up on the show. Watch 3.
Watch the Belko episodes and then move right to the last episode.
I liked them. I watched them.
Right, but if you were somebody who was disenfranchised with it, start with 3 and then do this one. This is great.
This was a great series. And so this episode, I couldn't figure out. It said it was only 59 minutes long, and I thought, how are they wrapping
all of this
even
up?
Remotely possible?
Yes.
And it was possible. It was not only possible, it was so well executed.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. This final episode was written by Venus Sood. I think that's how you say it. Sood. You know what? I'm Canadian.
You're a
and
you wish.
I can't say names properly, so that's the series creator there.
And it was directed by
Jonathan Demme.
Jonathan Demme, one of our faves.
Yes, who we highlighted him in another episode when we said it really was masterful when he was doing it. Now, once again, not to take away from the other directors, this has been just a fantastic series.
But this one today felt like a movie.
Well, yet Jonathan Demme has a touch to it.
Yeah.
And once again, his fingerprints were all over this without being heavy-handed. It's not like if Tarantino did it and you're like, it's a Tarantino episode. It's just...
Can you imagine that?
If you watch this...
That'd be crazy.
If you watch this, and then you watch, say, Silence of the Lambs, you can see that tension, the way he moves everything. Mm-hmm. He's working with the script, but he's creating something beyond it. This really did a beautiful job.
Very exceptional. So they did manage to not just wrap it up. It didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel...
No, not at all.
Anything. It didn't feel like we got shortchanged. I really
there was a point
did a great job
when they resolved Kyle's story.
Yeah, and we were like halfway. It was only like
there's like 25 minutes left.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and we're going, okay, and now we've got like 24 minutes to resolve Sarah and Holder.
But then they appeared to resolve Sarah in about 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And I'm going, wait, what just happened? How are they gonna fill 20 more minutes or however long it was?
And then we got the coda,
which
was
fantastic.
Just great.
So let's start. Okay, so Sarah, so we start out. It's a dream sequence, but
we don't know that at first.
So Sarah's running, and as Rob and I always say when we're watching it and Sarah's running, we go, "Oh, bad things."
Yeah, bad things happen.
Always happen when
she's running fast. It's like the first episode of this season when she was running and she was all panicked and upset. Mm-hmm. Same thing.
And here I thought, okay, this is normal. This is a part of the show, and she's trying to outrun her problems. She was trying to,
outrun her problems?
Well, yeah, that.
Okay.
But then there's a pinwheel on the beach and a body, we knew that
Wait, before you even say that, she stops at the bitch. She stops
we have to keep that in.
She stops at the beach, and she sees what looks like a body laying there, and it was exactly like the first episode, the pilot.
Yes.
When we first saw her running and there was that lump on the beach. Mm-hmm. And you know what it made me think?
What?
That's what that was. Because we talked about it back then and we're like, what is that? Like a fish or something's up on the beach? What is that? Mm-hmm. They never resolved that. Guess what it was?
Sarah.
It was this dream. So they did that throwback. So Vina knew back then, this is the dream she's having of her, and that body on the beach is her as a child. And then she goes down there. There's the pinwheel. That's when we're like, oh, it's the pinwheel. It's going to be her. She brushes it away. You see the red hair.
Yep.
And then
someone puts a gun to her head.
Yes, a gun goes up to her head and bang!
Wait, she wakes up to the gunshot.
Yes.
To the sound of the gunshot.
Yes.
And usually when that happens in a TV show or a movie, there's a gunshot
right.
in real life.
But no, this was just...
But no. So thankfully that wasn't happening.
Well, and you know what's crazy when you think about it? That was her shooting herself in the head because what she was dreaming is her killing Skinner.
Yeah.
So she was trapped between
who
she was as a child and being left and feeling like her childhood was dead, and then her adult self killing her own self. Yikes!
Yeah.
I mean, calling Dr. Freud, what was going on there? Holy cow.
So
okay, I'm already out of breath from this
I know,
thing.
and then we're only in the intro.
Yes.
So the cadets are, when we left the last episode, Kyle was in the woods surrounded by the two, by AJ and Lincoln.
We couldn't tell. You were saying that he was killed or that they caught him. I was saying, no, when he was behind that tree and they weren't surrounding him yet.
The tree was like an inch wide.
Well, if you actually look at the artwork we used for the episode on our website.
I don't. I try not to
It's him leaned up against the tree, and you can see that the tree is wider than he is. So, bam.
Whatevs.
So,
it looks about
anyway, we didn't know. We assumed he either got killed or we didn't know what happened. I mean, how's he getting out of that?
Well,
we don't really know how he got out of it. We don't
find out. So they're searching. Now it's the other cadets.
Yes.
There's a whole search team.
Well, and I want to point this out. Another allusion to the first season, because the very first season, when Rosie Larson was missing, the cops went out and did the same type of search through that field, remember? So when I saw this, I immediately thought of that. And then as the camera came in a little bit more, I went, oh, these are the cadets. And then the cadet runs up and is like, we haven't found anything, sir.
No, he found a shell casing.
No, at first they're like, we didn't find anything. And then it's like, the one guy leans down and goes, it's a shell casing.
Yeah.
And then he says, you find Stansbury.
Well, and the cadet, I'm thinking, oh, he's kind of in on it. I thought maybe he was corrupt.
Yeah.
And kind of in on it. But he starts walking and he sees this thing in the mud. A trail, like a line of mud. It's like a smear, but giant.
Okay.
And so it looked like someone...
It's like when you try to describe something when they say, if you were talking to an alien, describe what it is. And it's so hard sometimes to say, here's how you get peanut butter out of a jar. You know, and you have to describe it. You're trying to describe this.
Because it's a
smear.
It's a wide...
It is a triangle.
Yeah, that's our daughter.
It is.
Okay. So someone has been dragged across the grass. Like grass was
That's
wet,
what it looks like.
And then when you drag the body across it, it created a line of mud.
Right. That's exactly what it looks like.
So like that. That's
Although, you know what? That's not what it is because we know that none of them were killed. But it's what it looks like. And there is It
led to a small tree, and I did put small
This is a small tree, yes.
And it had a blood stain on it.
Yeah. I said it looked kind of like a handprint, but it was big. So it might have been a bloody hand. Oh, it was a hand.
His hand. Because
he got shot in the hand.
I was thinking if somebody got shot in the head, there'd be...
Yeah, blood spray.
No, there'd be worse than that.
Yeah.
So I kept thinking that's not what this is.
Although on The Sopranos, when they chased the Russian guy into the Pine Barrens and they shot and you saw the blood hit him, you saw him fall down and it hit him in the head. When they went over there, they couldn't find any blood or anything. And they got out of there. So, I mean, yes, there would be something, but it might be hard to find.
Okay, that was another fictional show. Freako.
And then on Happy Days.
Right, exactly. Okay, so Holder, in the meantime, is at Carolyn's ultrasound.
Yes.
And he is nuts. He's nervous. He's distracted.
Ooh, yeah.
He is really struggling.
Well, think about it. All that's going on in his world with Sarah, where he is now at a crossroads with that. All that's going on with this case. And then, I'm going to be a dad I just used again. Like, all this stuff. This guy has pressure like you've never known.
He is definitely not equipped.
And here's Carolyn being very sweet and just like,
Well, she's trying to lighten the mood.
Yeah.
She's joking around. She's
she's kind of having fun with it, like you kind of do when you're going through this.
But then she calls him on his nervousness and everything, and he looks like his eyes well up.
Yes.
And he is about to lose it.
Yes.
And he tells her that there was an incident, and he said, it's bad. It's real bad.
It's real
and
bad.
I'm going to have to make a choice between me and her.
Yes. She's like, her? You mean Sarah?
Oh.
What? And then I loved how she handled this, though, because she gets very authoritative with him, and she's like, look, whatever happened doesn't matter now. Mm-hmm. We're pregnant. You're going to be a dad.
And he says, I'm going to mess up our kid.
Right. And I'm just like my old man. And she's like, you're not. And she's just like, none of that matters. From this moment, she's like, we erase everything from before that's negative because you're a dad now.
Yeah.
And get it together. But she doesn't like reprimand him. She's just like, it's very much giving him a pass. Like, whatever's going on here, you deal with it. But just know, we're this now. This is something different.
Well, I put on here, she's not going to have any of this drama.
Yes.
She's just really not going to do this. And she's not following him down the rabbit hole. She's saying, just fix it. Do what you have to do. And you choose based on what is best for this baby.
Right.
You don't choose
you're a dad.
based
you're
on what's
now.
best for Sarah.
Yep. No more 1-900 holder.
Okay.
And
I call
dads.
complete BS on this.
Complete BS.
They can tell the sex of the baby already. It's her first ultrasound.
Yeah.
You can't know until you're like 20 weeks pregnant.
Right.
And you're pretty good. You're pretty well showing by
She
then.
also said it when they were having their first ultrasound is what it seemed like. She just was holding the thing, put it down, and she goes, let's hear. We've been through an ultrasound. They go back and forth. And she wasn't doing that yet. You could hear the heartbeat. That was right. But when she said, oh, you hear her heartbeat, I'm like,
oh, come on.
That was ridiculous. Because they would have said, do you want to know? Like, there would have been just even a moment of them saying, okay, so you guys want to know. And then even if she did that and rubbed across and went, we hear her heartbeat, it would have been more realistic. That wasn't realistic.
If that was the first time they heard this baby's heartbeat,
yes,
and they were finding out the sex of the baby, she's in serious trouble because that means she did not get prenatal care leading up to this moment.
Right.
And that is really frightening. So the fact that she didn't have an ultrasound at, like 9 weeks.
You know what? I think we're reading too much into it. I think that it was a mistake.
I don't care. I'm just saying.
I just think that was a little mistake.
Anyone who goes in for their first ultrasound, do not think that you're actually going to know the sex of your baby.
Yes.
That's a public service announcement.
The more
from
you
Southgate
know.
Media Group.
Do. The more you know with Martha Southgate.
How much did you freak out when Carl was waiting to go speak to the deputy commissioner?
Oh,
and then
God.
they don't even. It was a second. It was just sort of this.
Yes.
All right, Carl. The deputy commissioner is waiting.
We were freaking out, or I was, from the last time when he was sitting there and we knew this was going to happen, and he's sitting there, he's looking all nervous. And I'm like, from his last conversation with Holder, where Holder walked away. So I've been freaking out about this since then. Yep. Now he's sitting there. He's nervous. He's like, you can tell, he's just waiting for this freaking call from Holder. He's like, come on, Holder. He even tries to call Holder. He doesn't need to do that. He does not want Holder to go down. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that, like, he's got a big fish here. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't need to bother with Holder. Holder's been a jerk to him.
Right.
He really wants to try to save him. He doesn't really care about saving Sarah. He's out for blood.
And why should he?
Right.
I mean, they don't have any history other than ugliness. Right.
But then out comes the person as he's dialing Holder, and the deputy commissioner is ready to see you.
Yeah. Oh, I was freaking out.
You know what? I don't know how they're getting out of this because...
Well, we do because we've seen them.
Right, but what I'm saying is I'm going by how I was feeling through this whole thing. Yeah. I really didn't know at that point how they could possibly get out of this. He's going into that office. He's telling.
Yeah.
They didn't make it seem like he might not.
No, and he has evidence. He has a ton of evidence.
And if he doesn't tell, he's now implicated. So that's it.
And they have the car. Yeah. They have the
there's
gun.
There's no backing out.
I mean, like...
Holder didn't call. he's talking.
There's just so much. Yeah. So Sarah is frantically searching her house.
Yes.
And she's just destroying it, looking for this
the shell
casing.
Yeah, and the phone starts ringing.
Her phone rings, and then she's out driving in the rain.
I was going to say, it's raining.
And she's smoking again.
Yeah, and she's smoking. Didn't she yell at him last time? I quit smoking.
Yes.
Why are you trying to make me smoke a cigarette? Yeah. Here she is smoking away again.
And a bloody hand touches the window. That
my gosh.
me out.
Yes.
It's Kyle, and
he's
alive.
He's completely freaking out.
He's freaking out.
He's so panicked, and he's got blood on him and dirt, and I don't know how he got away from those guys.
He tells her everything about what happened with the Colonel and AJ and Lincoln.
Well, wait. He doesn't tell everything.
No, he tells
everything about them.
He tells everything at that point.
Right. Everything that he's been awakened to, because he's just awakening to these things. So what he knows, he spills it out there.
And he's freaking out. Yeah, he's clearly been, how traumatic,
Right. And then when he's sitting back there and he's crying and he's talking to her, he says, I just want to go home.
Yeah. And there's no home for him.
This is a big saddie face. I right on my paper. Him saying that, it's like you said, he doesn't have a home.
Yeah, agony.
He doesn't have any home. His home is covered in blood. His parents' house is covered in blood. And now the Colonel, the two guys, he's dead if he goes there.
But when we get further into the episode, I am so upset that he said this here, knowing what we know.
Yes.
And, so...
Yeah, but he said he didn't remember yet.
Right. No, but I'm just saying, knowing where his home went and terrible. Why, it's not anybody's fault but his.
I think that a lot of that we kind of predicted from the last one, like how that went down. It's going to unfold here. So let's not spoil. Let's keep going.
He tells her, well, anyone who's listening has seen it.
Right. I hope so. Either that or spoiler alert.
Unless they're doing this, going, we don't have to watch because they tell us.
They want to listen to this. Boy, that was a good choice.
That would be awesome. I feel very sorry for you. Right. If that's But anyway, so Kyle's telling her everything he knows up to that point, and he says that the Colonel, AJ, and Lincoln did it together.
Yes.
So he implicates the Colonel.
Yes.
In this as well. So we had thought, we had seen this unfolding, so we were not shocked necessarily by this, but the fact that he remembers it all, and is telling her. And so Sarah is trying to get the search warrant, and she's got Kyle at her house sleeping on the couch, just like Jack.
Yep.
And
she's very motherly to him at this point, more so than we've seen her be to Jack.
And guess what? She's motherly to him until she says, yeah, I'm going to leave you here alone.
I have to leave. There's Funyuns in the vending machine. If the cops come, crawl out of the bathroom window. It's a typical Sarah.
Can you stand it?
But she did try, and he's laying on the couch, and he's scared, and she was very warm to him. She's like, look, no one knows you're on this island. No one will come here. No one could possibly get to you.
Well, hang on. I thought this was weird. So he says to her, he looks out her window, and he said how green her yard is.
Yeah.
It was very weird. So he looks out the window, and he says, it's so green. It's what Eden must have been like. And Sarah says, and that's the tree of life. And there's this one tree out there.
And that's a tree that she looked at before.
Weirdest exchange.
Do you remember she sat and stared at that tree in an earlier episode? So it's a beautiful tree, but it's very odd. This might be above me a little bit as far as interpretation. I don't get it.
I don't understand what he's talking about. I understand Eden. Right. And I understand him, saying it's so green. It was just very strange to me.
Right.
Like the exchange was very out of place and a little weird.
It was a little strange.
So she says, no one will find you here. And he says, is that why you're here? So no one will find you? And she didn't.
Yeah, she Sarah.
But then you see his hand wound. She didn't really even treat it.
Well, then
it's like bleeding through the bandages.
It's typical Sarah. Like, here's a Band-Aid. She actually all did is she wrapped gauze around it. There's like blood.
There's nothing. Seriously?
Yep. Like I said, she might tell him don't get the Funyun oil in it, but that's about it. Yeah, that was, she hasn't evolved yet.
No.
Kind of a little bit there, though. She was warmer here.
A little bit. So the Colonel's completely freaking out.
Yes.
AJ and Lincoln are sitting there, and they tell her that he knows everything. And
oh my gosh, the emotions were running so high in here. Like, Lincoln is like ready to kill. In fact,
he says he wants to kill the Colonel.
And AJ is just like, you calm down. You don't talk that way to her. But then he turns around and he's like, you're effing crazy or whatever. And she's like, you stand down. I mean, like, she's like, because he was yelling things. He was swearing at her. Mm-hmm. And she's like trying to take control. Like, no. So, I mean, this, to me, I'm still a little confused at this point as to what went down. But it looks like at this point, as they had manipulated Kyle, it looked like in the last episode, she manipulated them to do her bidding. And she's still controlling them here. But Lincoln is off the rails.
Yes.
He's a wild card. And AJ is like wanting to be the super soldier for her.
Well, but they're also feeling so betrayed.
Yes.
Because they were her puppets.
Yes.
And they, the whole time she was just protecting Kyle.
Well, and it sure seems like she's going to serve them up at some point. Even though she keeps saying, we just do the plan and nothing will change. But yeah, that's the other thing. She's still protecting Kyle.
Yeah.
Which is, it doesn't make sense until we look at what I've said in the last couple episodes. And we're getting to it here.
So.
I think it's getting more obvious, though. So, cops show up outside. We see flashing lights. And as this scene is going down, then it cuts back into the room.
And the Colonel says, you stole my car. And
okay, was she?
I fixed it when you came back from killing the family.
Yes. Now, here's something I got to ask you.
Yeah.
Because, once again, we know at this point what's gone on.
Mm-hmm. Sort of.
No, I mean at this point in reality.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Yeah. But at this point, as we're watching it, did you...
I was shocked that the Colonel hadn't been there.
Well, okay, so you believed what she was saying.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Oh, you thought she was setting them up?
I thought she was setting them up and was manipulating them, and she was using that crazy Lincoln, like, to escalate the situation, and she was saying, you guys did this. Like, I covered up. Like, maybe they'll shoot each other. Yeah. Maybe AJ will yell just enough at Lincoln that he shoots Lincoln, and now AJ's done. I mean, it was like, I really thought that's what was going on.
And they say, tell us why you used us. And the Colonel says, no, I will do no such thing.
Woo,
and then
man.
She says, what did you do to Cadet Stansberry? What, like right now in the woods? And Lincoln says, you're glad he got away. He's going to tell the cops everything and we're going to prison. And you're okay with that. Like, how is that possible that you're going to accept that?
Right. When they said that Kyle got away, they didn't do anything, she looked genuinely relieved. Mm-hmm.
And then...
So there is that protection actually going on. The things they've talked about, the things we've questioned, is real. Now it's very real.
And Holder and Sarah are outside the school and they hear the gunshots.
Yes.
The Colonel killed AJ and Lincoln. She just shot him right there.
Yeah, well, it was actually when they were coming into the school and then you hear these sounds from upstairs and they go running up the stairs and there they are, dead on the floor, blood everywhere. The Colonel's standing, looking out the window, and she's got her pistol in her hand.
And she says...
So when they were walking out the door and they said, we're going to go, tell everybody what happened, she pulled a gun out and pop, pop. Wow.
Well, she was doing it, we find out, because she wanted to go to prison.
Yes.
For being a murderer, and she could take the whole fall.
Yes.
And so she claims that when Sarah and Holder come in, she says, I killed the Stanberries. And Sarah knows she's lying. Everybody knows she's...
And she goes, who are you protecting?
She's protecting Kyle. Yes. Rob for the win. She is Kyle's mom.
Yes.
I didn't really... I kept thinking, they're planting this the whole time, but I didn't really think they were going to follow through with it.
But I thought they did it really well.
Yeah. Now, just like me in the first season, or the first and second, when I knew that the sister had something to do with it.
Yeah, you nailed it with Rosie.
That's how you were with this one. Like, you just had that feeling from the beginning.
Right away. Now, this is another interesting thing that we got wrong, or at least I know I got wrong. Sarah notices the soldiers in there. That's when she puts it together, and she's like, oh, snap.
17 years,
yep.
one for each year.
She had it. We said that those were the trophies from Stansbury's, and that gun that was in there was the gun that was used to kill.
Yeah.
That it was a trophy in her office. We were freaking out.
Yeah.
That's not what it was.
What happened.
It was those trophies were just like he had, showing how old her son was. Yeah.
And
that's why the mom was so distant and weird, because this dad had a kid out of wedlock.
No, it wasn't the dad's either.
Yes, it was.
I thought they adopted him.
No. It was the dad's. That was the dad's son, who he hated because he was not his son from...
No. No. Sarah said, so the only reason you were with Kyle's dad was to get close to Kyle because they had your son.
Right.
That was after he was adopted.
Oh, you think?
Yes, she said you gave him up for adoption 17 years ago. Then she stalked the family.
So they adopted him.
She stalked the family.
Holy cow.
And she had an affair with the dad to get close to him.
As impressive as I was with the win.
You were way off on that.
I just didn't catch it. And I was like, I had this whole thing worked out. I'm like, okay, that must be what's going on. It was very convoluted. This makes so much more sense.
She didn't want Kyle to know that she was his mom.
So those soldiers, she was doing the same thing, but she wasn't.
She wanted to be in his life.
Yes.
But she couldn't let him know that she was his mom. So she had an affair with his dad in order to be closer.
Right. I was thinking that she had the affair with his dad when they knew each other in the military, but it was before that.
Yeah. And no, it was after. It was like just now.
But she's like a creepy stalker.
Yes. And No,
I mean the affair was now.
Yeah. She has guilt that she didn't see that Philip didn't love Kyle.
Right.
And she wants to take the blame because Kyle was hurt and she couldn't protect him. And he shouldn't have to pay for all of the sins of everybody around him.
And she also said, don't tell him.
Yeah. Oh, she does not want him to know.
I do not want him to know. And it was really amazing. I mean, this played out differently than I expected in a big way.
In every way.
But
I did not see any of that coming. But they cuff her and they read her rights. And Sarah, it's like she's looking in a mirror.
Yes.
She's staring at the colonel and they are one person. She said, I can't take him. I couldn't be his parent because I'm not wired to stay. I'm not wired to.
She goes, I'm just not built that way to have a child.
And here's Sarah.
But then she says, I'm too open to all the hurt in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is also Sarah.
Yes.
Sarah feels so deeply about these victims in the family.
Yeah, they're empaths.
That she can't function.
Yeah, she can't shut it off.
She can't have a real personal relationship because of all of that that she's burdened with. And the colonel says the same thing. I thought this was just great.
So Sarah goes outside the school and she's sitting out on the steps.
Yes.
And Holder comes out and he tells her they need to go pick up Kyle. And she says, no, I'm arresting the colonel for all of the murders. And Holder is, justifiably angry.
Yeah, think about it.
Like, ridiculously
She's already got
frustrated.
him in hot water with all this stuff. Why are you doing this?
Now you're going to let this kid get away with murder.
Right.
And Holder's just not having it. And
then she starts to freak out, and
he says she only murdered AJ and Lincoln, and then Sarah pulls her gun on him.
Yes!
She is completely...
I couldn't even believe that.
She's completely lost her mind.
She pulls her gun on him, and she's like, you snuck into my house and took that casing.
As if. Seriously.
And he's just standing there, like, in shock.
And she thinks he's working with Reddick. The paranoia.
Oh, my gosh, she's out of her mind. He doesn't acknowledge. You're just like...
He just walks away disgusted. How could you? He has done everything to protect her. He has sacrificed everything. and she's holding a gun on him.
Wow.
And accusing him of working with Reddick against her. So he's just done. He absolutely just looks disgusted with her, and he just walks away.
And she's calling him out for talking to Carl, and she thinks that he's leaving her too. She says something about that, like, you're leaving me too. It's like, Sarah, you need therapy to deal with these mommy-daddy issues in a big, giant way.
And you need to actually follow through with the therapy and not sit there and fight the therapist the whole time.
So here it is. And he walks away. I couldn't believe this scene.
And then we have all the cops showing up at Sarah's house on the island.
Yes.
And I'm thinking it's Carl.
Yeah, so did I. But then we see Holder
is
with him. And we're like,
he's leading it.
Yes.
With his gun out.
He's going to get Kyle. Holy cow!
He's not going to get Kyle.
Yes, he is.
He was looking for Sarah.
No, he was not. Why would he be there looking for Sarah?
I thought they were going to get Sarah. That's why I thought it was Carl.
No, right. I thought it was Carl going to get Sarah, but it wasn't. It was Holder left there, called it in, we're going to get Kyle. So are we confused?
Well, no, you know why? Because I got so stuck on the fact that I thought it was Carl that I couldn't get out of the scene.
Yeah, I get it. So they get up there, and you hear the cops going through the house, and they're clearing the rooms. And Holder's very frustrated by this. And it's like, I don't know where he's at. I mean,
we do.
Did he pull a jack and go out the bathroom window?
He's at Stanberry's.
Right. Then we see,
piano.
Wait. We see Sarah walking through the Stansbury's house. The blood is still everywhere. It's all white except for this red blood everywhere. And then there's Kyle sitting at the piano. He can't really play it because the chords are all cut.
The strings, yeah.
Right. But he's sitting there. I thought he was playing, though, because he had that light piano music playing, but then I was like, wait, there are no strings. So
yeah. She's trying to stop him from telling her the truth, because he's he wants to tell it all.
Yeah, he says, I remember exactly what happened.
And she keeps saying, no. I don't want you to be guilty. Yeah. You're not going to keep talking,
right.
and I'm going to let the colonel just take the fall.
Yes.
And he's like, no, everyone hated me. And he said they just kept telling me, if you want to be a soldier, you've got to be a killer, and just inflaming him.
Yes.
And it inflamed his rage.
We get that flashback where he snapped, where they were just doing it. It was a flashback we saw before, but now we see where he snaps. And he tells Sarah then, he starts screaming at him that he wants to kill somebody. And he's screaming it at AJ and Lincoln like, let's do it. Let's kill somebody.
It was his idea to kill his family.
Yes.
It was his idea.
But they were like, yeah. But
it was his idea. They made it sound like it was, he made it sound like it was their idea before.
Yes.
And the colonel kind of made it sound like it was that.
But that's not what happened. It was
Kyle's
him
idea.
And his idea, but they were involved.
And Sarah.
And then the colonel really was just covering it up.
And Sarah is totally projecting in this scene. And she's just going, oh, no, you know what? Some murders are just,
right.
outside of us. And it's okay.
Yeah, and then he starts telling Sarah that he wanted to die.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, that's not what you mean. It's like, Sarah, let it go.
And she says, just tell me what you need. And he says, to find a way out, help me. And she says, tell me what you did, and then it will be okay.
Oh, no, wait. It's interesting how this happened, because everything you said is accurate, except she was kind of panicked through, like, pushing. And then when he says that he just wants her to help him, she goes real peaceful.
Yeah.
And that's when she says,
tell me what
happened. She is resolved now, like, I am this person.
Right.
Like, all that out of control stuff is over.
Yeah.
That is her turning point for the whole season.
Yeah.
Really, the whole show is this moment, because she realizes, I'm the good guy, and I'm playing outside of who I am.
Exactly. Because if she helps him and she lets this kid off,
then she's a killer, and she's an accessory to murder.
A killer. She's letting him. Who knows what he's going to do?
Yep.
And she says, tell me what you did, and then it will be okay. And he says, I went from room to room until they were silent.
Yes. And we see him shoot the dad in bed. The mom starts to run. He chases her. Then he grabs the sister out from under a table.
And then Nadine comes to him. He's sitting at the piano, and
Oh
Nadine
my God.
comes to him, and he's telling her this, and he says, Nadine came in and said, "Did the monster go away?" And he said, "Close your eyes, baby bird. I promise it won't hurt." And Sarah said,
"Oh my God, this was so
I have
traumatic.
chills right now even talking about it." Sarah said,
Well,
"Why?"
we don't get to see it. We just see it go black.
I don't want to see it.
Thank God.
It was very much the...
It was enough.
It was very much the Walking Dead, look at the flowers, Lizzie.
It was.
And no way am I watching that.
In my head, I know exactly what happened when Lizzie looked at the flowers.
Absolutely, just like we know with Nadine. Close your eyes, Nadine. But Sarah asks him, why? And he says, I couldn't stand to see in her eyes that I was the monster, that it was me.
Yes.
And Sarah knew at that point, I cannot let this kid off. Yep. And so she called the police and they took him away.
She knew that before that point.
No, but I'm saying...
She knew it when she went peaceful. But
there was no question at this point.
When he told, he has now confessed to a detective.
Point blank, he shot a child.
Yes.
Because she reflected back on him.
Yes.
That he was a monster.
Yep.
And so she called the police and they took him away.
Yes. And Sarah's down there just as we see him getting taken away, Sarah's just standing outside of the house looking out onto the water. She's at peace in this crazy storm.
Because he needed to go.
Yes. Now I find it interesting that she did not tell him about the Colonel. She held promised. Right, but I find it interesting that she still held that like he doesn't need to know, and she didn't. It's not her place. Didn't do it. I thought
and the Colonel's still alive.
Right.
They can have communication.
Because before this, when she was trying to do the wrong thing, she could have used that as a chip, but she didn't. Nope. She never went there. So I think that's really commendable of her when she was going out of control and spinning so hard to know not to cross that line at least.
And they'll both be in life in prison at least.
Yes.
If not death penalty.
Yes.
And then...
Well, then it can turn into Orange is the New Black, and the mother and son can be in prison together,
but they, if they're both still alive, if one of them, if the Colonel decides that that's something that she needs to do, she can tell him. But it is absolutely not Sarah's place.
Yep.
And so Carl goes into an interrogation room with a carton of cigarettes.
Yeah, and you see him push the cigarettes across the table.
To Sarah.
And it's Sarah. Okay, like I said, that moment with Kyle was the
She was done. I can't run the rest of my life.
She knew at that moment she was going in to confess. That was it.
And she admits to killing Skinner.
She also says Holder had nothing to do with it, which...
Absolutely. Everybody knew that already.
Yeah, but he is an accessory to murder.
He was an accomplice, yeah.
So,
in a way, yeah.
Well, no, in a way, he is.
Yeah, because he wasn't an accomplice on...
He's a detective, and he did not... He's a cop. He didn't say what he saw. That is a really bad thing. Even if it was, you would be accessory to murder because you were there and you didn't speak up about it.
So,
but it's even worse. It's her partner.
Exactly.
So he would be going down for a long time.
And Carl tells Sarah that he offered Holder a deal.
Yes.
And Holder didn't delicately decline.
Right.
Right.
Hardly.
He vehemently declined his offer.
He told him to stick it in the backseat of a Volkswagen, if you know what I mean.
And
very uncomfortable.
Sarah said she's waiving her rights and she doesn't want a lawyer, and she said, you can arrest me now.
Yes.
And holy guacamole. And at that
moment, in walks the deputy commissioner.
I know, you have to do. I freaked. I was absolutely.
And behind him,
this was brilliant.
Rolls in.
That's rude.
Well, he was in a wheelchair.
He rolls
in. It's Mayor Darren Richmond.
Never saw that coming.
No. That was actually shocking.
Fantastic.
And you know what? The other thing is, and I said it while we were watching, and I went, this is the best Richmond scene. Like everything before.
Of all time.
We got tired of that story.
Yeah.
With this, I was like, I enjoyed that he was there.
It was fantastic.
And it was so great. So much history was there.
Okay. So let me tell this part. So she admits to killing Skinner.
Yes.
And Darren says his death has been ruled a suicide.
Right.
And so no, you didn't. You were under a lot of stress.
Well, yeah, because first he says,
but I get to tell this part.
Skinner being the Pied Piper. He asks about Skinner, and then he says, he was the Pied Piper, and that's when he says that it's been ruled that Skinner's death was a suicide. You've made a mistake here.
Joe Mills
did
the killer, and
holy.
But wait,
cow.
he says this. She starts to get upset because she's like, no, I want to go down for this crime. I don't want anyone else to go. And he says, you put me in this chair and I would gladly lock you up for the rest of your mother-loving days.
Yeah.
But imagine the public reaction to Lieutenant Skinner killing those girls. And he says, Joe Mills killed those girls. And she's like, well, I'll go to the press. And he says, you have a history of mental illness, Sarah. I mean, he
played. We have seen these politicians in this series and how they play and how they manipulate. Darren, who was not one of those, flipped at the end of season 2. We saw that that's who he is. Here, he's as dirty and manipulative as any of them. But you know what? He is right. Because this is a volatile situation. And if they revealed that Skinner did it and then a cop killed Skinner.
And then they covered it up.
This would have been, this would have just been the worst. It would have been craziness.
Well, and then you have Joe Mills, okay? Joe Mills was a bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Mills needed to be off the streets.
Yeah.
So it's not like they framed someone who didn't do really bad things.
Yes.
No, he does really, he has done
He's
bad
a heinous guy that
things.
should be in jail. He's not the wrong guy.
Skinner is dead.
Yes.
He can't hurt anybody else.
Right. So when you look at it this way, I'm sure there is an ethical argument.
Oh, it's wrong. I mean,
but I'm sure there's an ethical standpoint you could go from about this whole situation. It would take a lot of unraveling to figure this out. I mean, black and white, no. Joe Mills did not kill these girls, so he should not be in prison for that. But he should be in prison for underage
what he did to those children.
Yes. So he should be in prison for that, but he didn't kill.
He has damaged so many people. I mean, he has done irreparable.
So if we step back from that,
yes,
and we look at it from another standpoint, you're right. Joe Mills should be locked up for life for being the Pied Piper, off the streets. Skinner dead. Pied Piper is off the streets. Two heinous monsters walking this earth are no longer a threat. Mm-hmm. So, boy, it's a hard one because you don't know if they hadn't done this and they let, Joe Mills could walk and then they'd have to build a case against him for this other and that he might walk. You don't want that guy out there.
Well, and this was an interesting, so they leave and Sarah's in the room with Carl.
Yeah.
And Carl says to her, Sarah, always the one with the conscience.
Oh.
And he said something like, sometimes it doesn't work out.
No, he goes, he said this, it was a throwback because he said it before. Always the one with the conscience, right?
Yeah.
And then he says,
Conscience.
I wish I was conscious right now. Sometimes that's not enough.
Yeah, there you go. That's why I didn't write that other part.
This, once again, as much as I enjoyed that Richmond scene, that I'm so surprised how much I loved this scene. I loved this Carl scene.
I did too. And you know what it said to me, it screamed so loudly was, because the whole time you're thinking Holder is it.
Yes.
And he's saying, No. Holder would lie. Holder would do anything.
Holder already did. He held his tongue.
He did. And she's the one who caved. And he said, you're the one with the conscience. Who would think watching these seasons,
I loved it.
And thinking she's the one with the freaking conscience,
right.
So very interesting. And then she's alone in the room. He has
the conscience, but he is super loyal to her,
and he has a way of being able to
and once again
stifle his conscience.
And if you go from the ethical thing, he probably has that same thought, like, this works. You killed this guy, but he was a monster.
Yes.
And now we have to protect you because you're not the monster. Once again, like Kyle saying, I realized I'm the monster, right? So he might have that same viewpoint. She is the one who her conscience had to be her guide here.
And she has to live for the rest of her life knowing that somebody else is paying her crime.
Yes. Which was what tore her up about I can't think of his name now because I'm so worked up about this, but our prisoner from last season, who's the guy that she and Skinner put in prison, who didn't deserve to be there. So, I mean, there's so much tied up in this. Oh, my God.
So she's alone in the room now. Carl leaves. She's alone in the room, and she looks at the two-way mirror.
Yes.
And she's staring at it, and Holder is on the other side.
Staring right
and
back.
She walks out of the room, and she left her badge on the table.
Yes.
Done. She's done.
Yes.
Because they didn't take her badge.
No. She walked away. Now, the next thing we see, Holder, he's at a cemetery, and he's waiting in the car, and a car pulls up, and he gets out, and it's Callie's mom. She's there at Callie's grave, and Holder walks up, and of course, she's like, what the hell are you doing here, you know? He gives her the earring.
And she just looks awful.
And it's the earring that we saw that was in the body bag. Yeah, she looks wrecked.
I mean, you could just tell. I mean, she's really, really suffering.
Well, she now has closure, though. She knows, and they buried her.
And Joe Mills is going down as the killer.
Yes.
And so that's wrong that she thinks that that guy... I mean...
And Holder can't say anything about how he was
awful.
not the killer. And the other thing is, the last time they met, he was
heinous.
Heinous to her. And I loved this about him. He lays it out there. He apologizes.
Well,
and he says, I was horrible to you. And she's like, you had no right to say that to me. And he's like, I know.
Did you say that he gave her daughter's earring?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And I didn't hear. I didn't hear you.
I'm so worked up. I'm not surprised.
And he tells her, I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to have a little girl, and I don't want to screw it up. And she says, then don't.
Yes.
And she asks...
Better advice than Sarah's ever given.
Yeah, and she asks where Sarah is, and she said, are you still working together?
And he avoids it.
He completely avoids the question and leaves. And he stops at Bullet's grave. I cried. Oh my gosh. And he says, what's up, little bee?
This ending was so emotional without being that manipulative.
No, not at all.
I think that, once again, Demi did a great job of not letting it go into that lifetime manipulation emotion.
Vina with the dialogue.
Yes, it was fantastic.
And so... He stops at her grave and he leaves her necklace on top of her.
Yeah, that bullet necklace.
And he says, what's up, little bee? And I just wanted to fall into the fetal position and weep.
And he walks away.
I actually wrote, the pain of it all.
This was, I just thought this was beautiful. This whole
it was
thing,
a beautiful scene.
The writing, everything was just
and
spot
the fact
on.
that he was able to give Callie's mom some closure. They apologized like they could... You know,
she still probably hates him, but it's softened. She realizes you're human.
Yeah. And then he was able to have his closure with Bullet. And so we see Sarah, and she's moved out of her house.
And she had some lovely wallpaper.
Wow, was that an ugly ass house.
Well, you made a great point here. You were like, it's so dark
bright
in
and
there.
White outside.
And outside it's bright and white. It's like, that's her on the inside, all messed up and ugly, dark stuff going on. Even though I think at this point, that's why she's moving out of it. Because
she's getting out of it.
She has moved out of that.
She's not in an island anymore. She's not hiding anymore. And she doesn't have all that
ugly inside. Yes.
And she finds the bullet casing. And after she accused Holder. Oh my gosh.
And it was like sticking in the vent. As soon as I saw her look over there, I'm like, it's gonna be the bullet casing. Holy crap.
Okay, so now
I don't know how many times we watched this
I had to watch this scene over and over and over.
Well, and I love that we had to watch it and not take notes and then go back and watch it and take notes. And as we're taking the notes, I know I did. I started just watching it again.
I had to keep watching. I was like, I can't even write down anything because, oh my gosh. So it's a flash forward.
It's a flash forward. Now, this is interesting because I have read online people criticizing. I knew there was a flash forward. I didn't know what happened. But I've read people say, oh, it's kind of dumb. I don't know why they did that. They were just rushing to a conclusion. And I'm like, the whole time, I put that stuff out of my head. I take it at face value because a lot of haters out there for everything. When it went into the flash forward, I thought this was done
it was so beautiful.
Well.
She looked... Okay, so what happens is, flash forward.
Yeah.
Holder is with his daughter. She's about 5 years old.
Yeah, he's getting her on the school bus.
And he says something about her mom.
He calls her Kalia, too.
Yes. And he is not with Carolyn.
Yes.
I don't know if they ever got married,
I don't know if they got married,
divorced.
but they never... Or they just never got married, and they share custody, but very loving with her. She's
sweet.
very loving, and it seems very much
cute.
like this is normal.
Very cute.
Like, she doesn't seem like a kid. It's like, bye, Dad. It's super normal.
And really comfortable, fun, loving, not anything weird.
I like to fill in the blanks and say, you know what? He knew that he wasn't meant to marry, that she knew this isn't going to work. Let's not get married. How do we do this? What does this look like? And
how do we do it in a healthy way? And it seemed like
she deserved more than the mess he was at that point, too.
And so he's still in NA.
Yes.
But he's leading now.
Yeah, this was cool. I wrote on here, he's at this NA meeting, and he's just full voice as he's doing, like, the prayer at the end and everything. And I was like, oh, he's the leader now. And, like, his hoodie, he didn't have that crappy hoodie. He had, like,
he looked so nice.
Nicer shirt. When he came out of it, like, his hair was cut. He had on, like, nicer jeans and, like, white shoes. I was like, who is this guy?
Well, then we see Sarah.
Yeah.
So Sarah's outside, and she looks so pretty.
Yes.
And so nice and healthy, like
no
ridiculously
sweater.
Healthy. And I wrote in all caps and exclamation points, no ugly sweater.
Yeah. She had like a blue scarf on.
She had a regular shirt on. She hasn't had a shirt on.
Normal.
She looked awesome, and she looked really, really radiant and healthy.
Best part of it, he sees her and says, oh, snap, 1-900-LINDEN. You ask and you shall receive.
And
1-900-LINDEN came back.
She says, I heard you've got a new job. And he says, I see you've got a new scarf. And I just died. I was like, they're back.
And the other thing is, this was a scene where I wrote this. They seemed flirty.
Yeah.
But not like overtly flirty or anything. It was just...
there was just enough of uncomfortable.
Yes, little bit of banter had a flirt element to it, which we haven't really seen before. There's been warmness and everything, but they're both in better places.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, wow. And I didn't know if they hadn't really seen each other in that long, but
they didn't.
The dialogue kind of indicated when she left that room, they haven't seen each other.
They haven't talked to each other because she had to say, so he says, so you're back. And she said, I'm not back. I'm just passing through.
Yeah.
And she said, I lived in Chicago for a while. I did this, I did that. So they didn't know. Like, if you were in communication with somebody, they would know, like back when you were with Jack and you were in Chicago. He says, did you get to spend time with him? And she said, yeah, he's in college now and he's taller than you.
Yes.
And somewhere that actor's really happy.
Yes.
To hear that. But the actor that played Jack.
Right. Yes. Yes, I got out of that. I'm in college.
And I'm taller than...
Yeah, right.
So Holder...
snap.
Holder says, did you find him on your travels in the big bad world? And she's like, who? And he said, the bad guy. Right. And she says, there is no bad guy.
Yes.
And he says, well, you know what? We tried at least. At least we can say that.
Then she goes into this thing about how she was always looking for something, always like running from things. And then she says, maybe us in that car smoking cigarettes, home was us.
Well, let me read.
You read it, because I can't even get through it. I was totally tearing up.
And this is paraphrased a little bit better than yours.
Okay.
But she said, I never had a real house to grow up in. I never belonged anywhere. All my life, I was looking for that thing, that it was out there somewhere, and all I had to do was find it. But home was us, you and me. I think that was everything. And she says, I'm sorry.
Wow.
And I mean, I'm seriously, look at my arms. I have such goosebumps right now. But she says, I should have known that you were one person who always stays. And she said, you were my best friend. Oh, I died.
And once again,
was that a little better than the way you freaking read it?
I do not feel like it was manipulative.
It was not manipulative at all.
I didn't feel like it was a flowery ending. It was like this, and it wasn't like if this had happened earlier in the series, it wouldn't have been the same. Mm-hmm. The fact that they haven't talked in 5 years, and the fact that there's still this like thing between them that's so much deeper. Think of what these two went through.
Well, and who else can understand what they've seen, where they've been?
And
they're meant to be together in that. And so what she was saying was, I've been going around trying to find this elusive thing, but I everywhere I go, I just want to be with you. I just realized that it's you. And as you said, when we were sitting in the car smoking cigarettes and doing our thing. That was home. At home is where we are.
Yeah.
And he says, stay.
Yes. And she declines. And then...
Well, she does Sarah. She runs away.
Right. And she says, this is a city of dead for me.
Yeah.
And
he says, close your eyes. And look at me, or close. No, you can't.
Maybe what you're looking for is standing right here. Or he says you'll see what's standing right here. It's not corpses and ghosts.
It's not ghosties. Yeah, they call them ghosties. It's not ghosties, and he said, and it's not death. It's me.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's me.
He doesn't say it's me. Just it's not ghosties and death.
Yeah.
And she deflects again, and he doesn't play the game this time, though. This was another interesting thing. He doesn't play it. He just goes,
healthy.
Then bye. And he gives her goodbye. A warm hug.
Because he knows she's going.
Right.
And he knows she's not going to stay.
And she drives off. The last frowny face I do in the whole series is right there. And
I just sat there yelling at the screen going, go back, Sarah. Turn around, Sarah.
And then as I put
leave.
it, she goes off on a walkabout. Yeah. Even though it's a drive-about.
And it's like a 20-minute drive-about.
And she's driving around, and the music's playing, and you're just like, okay, she's got to go back. But she didn't need to. It could have ended.
It could have ended.
And then we get that shot that they show in the beginning. It actually looked like the opening credits a little bit, where you see like her hand shifting the gear and the rain on the window. And then you see that scene where it's the image that they use where she's standing looking out over the water, and you see that red hair. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what she stepped into. So it looked exactly like it. But now we get a camera angle. Instead of the back of her, we see the front, and her face, just like that other scene where she went peaceful.
Yeah.
You
knew what she needed to do.
A decision made. Mm-hmm. Once again, I was hoping she was going back, but she very well could have driven on.
Yeah,
that could have been, and it would have been a satisfying ending just as much.
Because Holder at least knows that she loves him.
Yes.
And what he means to her.
Yes.
And I had the feeling he could live with that.
I do too. I think he was in a great place. And I think that she, at this moment, she ran and she needed that space. We've watched her for 4 seasons do that thing where she stops and processes a crime.
Yes.
We watched her stop and process her life for the first time.
Yes.
She doesn't do that.
No.
She did.
And
next thing we see...
Okay, wait. Now, this was straight out of... I'm sitting there watching this. Like I said, we kept rewinding. But I'm watching this going... It's Sleepless in Seattle. Right. It's 16 Candles. It's her walking out of the church at 16 Candles, and Jake is leaned against the car.
Holder's going to sit on a table with a birthday cake with her, and they're going to blow out the candles. I was just
sitting there going... Oh my gosh, how much do I love this scene? It went to all of my 80s movie,
It wasn't.
Well, although Sleepless wasn't 80s.
It was Jonathan Demme's version.
Freaking-tastic.
It was Jonathan Demme's version of a love story.
Yes.
Is what that was, and it was beautiful.
It was fantastic. So she's standing, she's
and Vina Sud's finale, it's just beautiful.
She's sitting in her car. And Holder comes out of NA, and he locks the door, and he turns around, and there she is.
He kind of makes a smile, and we're like, she's there.
Yes.
And then it shows her, and she's sitting there, and she gets out, and then she just does a very warm smile. Like, you can tell
I'm here.
All the crap is done.
Yeah.
This is it.
I'm here. I'm where I need to be.
And it ends. I mean,
oh,
what an ending.
I mean, imagine the fanfic people are going to write about that.
Holy cow. Well, and okay, so that's it. That's the end of the series. But you made a great point. There is nothing to say that it can't go on.
It can go on.
Because they're not going to be detectives, but they could be consulting.
Why couldn't they be? And they could be detectives if they want to be.
They're not detectives anymore. They're not going to go back to that.
But if they
that was a world of crap
they could
for them.
go in, though, and consult on cases and do things like that.
If something big were to happen.
That's how I imagine Mulder and Scully ended, too.
Yes. Something draws them back to help with a case, or they get wound up in something, or... Frankly, I know you won't want to hear this, but do another season and make it a new pair.
Yeah,
and
I
make
don't mind that.
But the way these crimes were constructed was so fantastic.
Brilliant, yeah.
And if they did this 6 to 10 episode run on Netflix, even if it's a different pair of cops every season,
whatever.
I have no problem with it.
I would watch that because I feel like we have closure.
Just like Showtime or HBO has with
True Detective.
True Detective, Netflix has their True Detective right here with.
I agree.
They don't need to use these guys as much as I love these guys, and I would love to see it go on. True Detective is using new detectives each time.
And this one doesn't. I have closure here.
This could be the start to something.
And I also don't think it's wrapped up in a pretty little bow.
No. There's
Sarah
still
doesn't
stuff.
have to live with them.
Right.
Sarah, it's not like she's going in and like, let's have a ready-made family. I don't see her ever being able to really just embrace that role and be baking cookies or doing anything.
But maybe, I mean, she's had that time in Chicago. She learned to be around Jack. She learned to be around her ex-husband. Maybe she is more that than you think at this point. And, maybe
I don't think so, because I don't think she would have run
but she
when
was
he
scared.
said stay.
No, I'll tell you why. I still might be right with that. Because when she went to run, it could be that she wasn't running from that part of the life. She was running from her past life that was still represented by Seattle. When he said, it's not that anymore, it's this, she had to realize, I'm not in that trap anymore. The person I was in Chicago and what I grew into is who I am. And it's who I am in Holder's eyes, which are the only eyes that matter now. Going forward.
Well, and I said during that scene, Holder's thrilled right now because now he's not the most likely to screw the kid up. Right. So he's going off the hook. I get to be good cop, and she can be bad cop and screw my kid up.
Right.
And so he's gold there,
Oh,
stay gold,
gosh.
pony boy.
So is that it?
I'm sad, but yes, I am so thrilled. I
loved
loved this.
I hope people watch this and just love it as much as we do.
I just have the most warm fuzzies over this ending, and anyone who doesn't, I appreciate it. I understand your thought. I get it. I could see how people could take this in lots of different ways, but for us personally, this was so satisfying and so special.
Right.
And I just thought it was fantastic and well done, and I thought the dialogue was brilliant throughout the episode. Did too. And
this was just exceptional.
I just loved it.
Yeah, and I'm sorry it's over, but I think that there is room for it to continue, or if it doesn't, I'm very satisfied. This was a complete story, and it was fantastic.
And all you fanfickers out there,
go town.
Have a field day, because they just gave you a wealth of
they did.
Material here.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, how fantastic.
All right. Well, you can find all the past episodes of this, 43 past episodes of this show, on our website, which is www.southgatemediagroup.com. We will still have our Twitter page, our Twitter feed, although I don't know how much will be happening now that the show is over for us, but that is at The Killing Pod. You can follow me on Twitter at rsouthgate, and I'll be tweeting out about all of our shows. We have 40 in our lineup right now and more coming. Martha, you're going to tweet from?
At SMG Pods.
That is our company Twitter, but she tweets about all the different shows and things and does live tweeting from that as well. If there's a show that you would like us to do or our company to do, tweet us. Let us know. Go to our Facebook page. It's up there, The Killing Podcast on Facebook. Find us on Tumblr. Find us on Pinterest. It's all there. Communicate with us. We're still here. Even though we're not going to be recording new episodes, we're still here. Although you never know. We may end up getting an interview here and there. And if we do, we'll throw them up on the feed. So don't cancel the subscription. There just won't. It'll be dormant most of the time. But every once in a while, you might get a notice that there's something there. Could be. Boy, that's it. Martha, thank you for doing this project with me. This was a lot of fun.
I'm glad we did it.
That's it. 44 episodes and done. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it, and we love that you guys went on this journey with us. That's it. We don't need to find out anything, except maybe next time we'll find out if something more happens.
If we get any more seasons.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.